everyone, it's Meg, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some books I have read recently. This video is well overdue. I have so many books to talk to you guys about today. I have a mixture of some general books that I've read recently and also the books that I read for the reading rush. I know I'm kind of like a month late for doing this wrap up for the reading rush, but you know, what's your girl gotta do? I have so many books that I'm so excited to talk to you guys about today, so I think without further ado, let's get into the video. I'm not going to be going into depth quite as much with these books as I would usually do with my recent reads, obviously because I have more books, but there are some that I particularly do want to talk about, and I'm going to start off kind of do it in the order that I read the books. So the first couple of books are the books that I read before the reading rush, and the first one that I have is Running Upon the Wires by Kate Tempest. This is Kate Tempest's latest collection and I've had it for quite a while, and I finished it a couple of months ago and I really enjoyed it. Kate Tempest is one of my favourite poets. I have Hold Your Own, which is another one of her collections which I really enjoyed, and this collection specifically is all about relationships and kind of the different stages of relationships, from breakup to starting a new relationship and kind of that bit in between, and I really enjoyed it. Can't really give much of an opinion because it feels like such a long time ago since I read it, but I did really enjoy it and I love Kate's writing. It's not too difficult or too kind of hard to understand, because I feel like some poetry is kind of hard to pick apart and understand and make sense of, and Kate's work is a lot easier to read and it's just absolutely wonderful, and I do really enjoy her work. So yeah, it was a really great read and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I have is one that, like, oh my god, like, I have been wanting to read this book for ages, but I put it off and then I bought the book and just, yeah, it's a pretty good book, not gonna lie. It has changed my view on my writing and how I kind of want to do my writing in the future, if that even makes any sense, and that is The Poet X by Elizabeth Azevedo. This has been a very popular book on BookTube. There have been some mixed opinions on it because it is a story told in verse, and I personally have never read a story told in verse before, but I read this and just, like, words cannot describe how much I love it. I love our main protagonist. She is so fiery and determined and I just love everything about her, and I love how there is spoken word in the actual story, and oh my god, like, you can see I tabbed it quite a lot and I annotated it a bit, and I feel like I could go back through it all over again, and just, yeah, it was great. I felt like I could relate a lot to this story and relate to our main character. If you guys don't know, you should probably know by now, is that I want to be a poet. I would like to be a writer, maybe one day write a novel as well, but after reading this book it brought me so much inspiration because I have an extremely loose concept for a novel, and I feel like after reading this book, I feel like if I do end up writing it, I will probably write it in verse. I feel like that is the way to go for me if I ever do come to write a novel. So yeah, this book means the world to me. I'm so glad that I loved it, and yeah, I probably did a really rubbish description of this, but I really enjoyed it. It made me feel all the feels. It destroyed me in all the best ways possible, and I just, yeah, like I said, I have no words. And this book means the world to me, and I will read it and reread it over and over again. I will continue to annotate and tab it every time I read it. I just love it so much. So of course I had to give it a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I have is one that I actually listened to an audio, and that is Kings, Queens and Inbetweens by Tanya Bossaju. I believe that is how you say her last name. This book has been on my radar for a while and I was extremely excited when I heard that it was coming out because I love drag. I love everything to do with drag. It's just something that I absolutely love, and this book is specifically focuses on drag kings, and I was so excited to read it, and I picked it up on audiobook and I did really enjoy it. It is a debut novel and I really enjoyed it. I loved the characters. The only thing that I dislike about it is I feel like it's a bit messy. I feel like the plot was a bit messy, things were a little bit all over the place, things happened and you were kind of like, why did that happen, or there wasn't they weren't tied up by the end of the book. So, and I don't feel like the book at the end was tied up quite as much as I would like it to have been. But I really did enjoy the story, and like I said, I love drag. I didn't know much about drag kings, so it was really interesting reading this book, or listening to it I should say, and learning more about drag kings and kind of just the drag culture in general. And I feel like it is a book that quite a few people can relate to, and yeah, I did really enjoy it. I did like the audiobook, and my favourite character was Dita. I think that was her name from what I can remember, the drag queen. I absolutely loved her to pieces. I thought she was so sassy and so amazing and so great. And the only other downside I have to this book was that I didn't like the main character that much, Nima. I felt like she had some self-doubt and she kind of beat herself up a bit, and I don't mind when characters do that, but it was maybe it was just because I was listening to the audiobook, and it was one of those things where I was just like, oh my god, like, good god girl, get a grip, you know? It felt like she was absolutely destroying herself and just doing things like, doing things, and I was just like, seriously, I was just like, get a grip, like, it's not that bad, like, believe in yourself. It's kind of just like really self-pity, and I was just like, no girl, no, you know? Like, you can do better than that, you've got this, you can do it, you know? So that was the only other thing that I wasn't as keen on about this book, and unfortunately it didn't meet my expectations like I thought it would do, which I'm really gutted about because I really wanted to love it, especially because of the subject matter. But I still think it is a wonderful read, and also quite an important read, and altogether I gave it a 3.75 stars, I believe. I think that's what I gave it. So yeah, still enjoyed it, but unfortunately it didn't quite meet my expectations like I thought it would. The next book that I have is I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. I'm sure you guys know already, if you are a regular watcher of my videos, how much I love Alice and I love her books. I have read both volumes of Heartstopper and also Radio Silence, and this is the second, I guess, full-on novel that I have read from hers. And I picked this up because it was one of the picks for the Bookmarked book club, and I did enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it anywhere near as much as Radio Silence or Heartstopper. I did still really enjoy the characters. That is something that I will always enjoy in Alice's books, but I feel like I really enjoyed it, and then the more I thought about it afterwards, and also for watching the live show that Bookmarks did for this book, the more I thought about it, the more I kind of found issues with it and didn't like it as much as I originally thought I did. Nothing really happened throughout the first half of the book, and then towards the end loads of stuff happened, and some things happened for no reason, some things were kind of like, I can't think of the word, where you kind of think it's a bit ridiculous, like it's not actually, there's a very slim chance that that's actually going to happen in life. And this is about fandom culture, and that is something that I have never really been a part of, whether it's about music or a TV show or anything. I've just never really been part of a fandom, so it's not a book that I can relate to, but obviously I can still enjoy it, and I did enjoy it. I just found some issues with it, and just some of the things that happened, you were kind of just like, what? Like, okay. It was kind of ridiculous, some of it, but I still did enjoy it, just not as much as Alice's other books. Still glad I read it though. I would still like to read all of Alice's books, but yeah. There we go. I feel like I'm in a really weird mood, but there you go. So altogether I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars, I think, 3.75, something along those lines. And the next book that I have is one that I bought in a book haul a little while ago, and I read it, and yeah, it's pretty damn good, not gonna lie. And that is A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. I picked this book up because Lucy from Lucy the Reader was talking about this book and about how wonderful it is. And generally this isn't the sort of book that I would initially pick up because it is a historical fiction and I don't like historical fiction generally, but this book is set in the 1920s and it is about a girl named Lou who lives in Cornwall, and she meets this Cardew family who are these scandalously rich siblings, and she basically falls into their world over the summer and gets to experience what it is like to be one of them. And oh my goodness, this book is so good. The writing is absolutely beautiful. The moment I started reading this book, from the first page, it absolutely captured me. It is one of those books that is so comforting. It is just so warm and fuzzy and wonderful, and it's just so comforting, and it definitely gives me vibes for I Capture the Castle, and I feel like it has quotes from Great Gatsby, so I guess it's kind of based on the Great Gatsby as well, which I haven't personally read, but it is just so wonderful. I absolutely adore the characters. I love Lou and her and the Cardew siblings and all the other characters that we have, especially Midge, who is Lou's mum. I think she's awesome. And it's so atmospheric. You feel like you are in Penlyn with everybody, like lying on the beach on the island or in the orchard, and yeah, it's amazing. I have no words to describe how good it is. I have no negatives. I love it. And the romance is wonderful. It's like super angsty and wonderful, just like with her second book, which I will talk about a little later on. But yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this. It just brings me so much joy, and Laura Wood has become one of my new favourite authors, and yeah, I love it. Please go and pick this book up, or Laura's other book, which I will talk about in a little bit. And obviously I had to give this 5 out of 5 stars. So the next books that I'm going to talk about are the ones that I read for the reading rush back in July, and I managed to read 7 books, which was awesome. So I'm going to go through these a little bit more quickly because some of them are rereads and mostly they're quite short books, so you know, great. So the first book that I read for the reading rush is A Quick and Easy Guide to Queer and Trans Identities by Maddie G and J.R. Zuckerberg, and I saw Books with Chloe put this mention this book on her Instagram a little while back, so I thought I'd pick it up because it is a cute little graphic novel, and I thought that would be a great and quick and easy read for the reading rush, since I really wanted to do well because I did pretty damn awful last year. And I really enjoyed this book. It is so wholesome and just an absolutely wonderful read. I love the art style. There's 2 different sorts, so there's like this, and then there's some where it's blue, and it's really cute. You can't see very well, but it's such a lovely read. It's very informative. I learnt so much through this book. I thought I knew quite a lot, but obviously this opened my eyes up to how much more there is to learn, obviously, about the queer and trans community, and I think it's just really, really wonderful, and I love how it is told by snails. I think that is just so cute. So I really love this book, and I would definitely recommend it. So obviously I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. But the next book that I read for the reading rush is a reread actually, and that is Milk and Honey by Ruby Kaur. I love poetry, you guys should know that by now, and I felt like rereading this book because I hadn't read it in a while, and I do have mixed opinions on this sort of like modern Insta poetry, but I really enjoyed my reread for this book. It's just something very simple and easy to read, and obviously poetry doesn't have to be super intricate and hard to understand and all that sort of thing, but I just really enjoyed my reread, and I enjoyed it even more the second time around reading it because I had such high expectations the first time I read it because I read it first time it came out. But I just really enjoyed it, to be honest with you, and that is all I have to say on it. I really enjoyed it. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's also a reread, and that is the first volume of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, and this is a graphic novel about 2 boys named Nick and Charlie, and basically it's about them forming a relationship, and it is just so wonderful and cute and adorable, and I love the art style. It is so simplistic and lovely, and these boys are everything. They are so precious. And I reread this, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars again, because I picked up the second volume of Heartstopper. I got an exclusive one from Waterstones that is signed, and because it came out on my birthday, and I really could not wait to get my hands on this because the first volume is a bit of a cliffhanger, so I could not wait. And like I could have sobbed. I wasn't sobbing, but I was like internally sobbing about 20 pages into this, because just like, oh my god, so freaking adorable. These boys are everything, and I think it is such a wonderful story that you can read no matter your age, just anything, no matter who you are. This is an absolutely wonderful read, and I love it to pieces. I love the series, and I cannot wait for the next volume, which we have to wait another year for. But you know, I'll live, I'll get through it, I know. But I love this so much, so obviously I had to give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I have Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. I probably butchered that really bad. And this was a book that I was meant to read last year for the challenge, and I don't have much to say in it, to be honest with you. It's one of those little penguin black books, and it's Letters to a Young Poet, hence the title. And I did enjoy it. I kind of didn't enjoy it as much as when I remember when I started to read it last year. And yeah, it was okay. It wasn't amazing. I still enjoyed it nonetheless, and I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, I think. So, you know, pretty solid. Didn't hate it, just don't remember loving it as much as I did when I originally started reading it. My second to last read for the reading rush, I believe, yes, I got that, is Alice Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. And this was another reread. This was one where I listened to it on audiobook, and it was a full cast, which I really enjoyed. And I like the Alice stories as in the original book. It is actually my favourite Disney film, and I love the original Disney animated and the Tim Burton ones. And I must admit, I think on this occasion, this very rare occasion, I actually prefer the films to the books. I just find Alice a very annoying character. I don't know why. I find her more annoying in the books. I don't know how. I find the characters a bit more annoying in general. I don't know why. And I really wish I did love this book as much as everyone else does, or loved it more than the films, but unfortunately I don't. And I do think I prefer Through the Looking Glass over Wonderland when it comes to the actual books. And yeah, like I said, I do still enjoy these, but unfortunately I feel like on this occasion I do prefer the films over the book. And I think I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars, or a 3.5, something along those lines. And the last book that I read in the reading rush was Every Word You Cannot Say by Ian S. Thomas, which is a poetry collection. I originally found this book a bit at the beginning of the year in Waterstones, and I read the back of it, and it's one of those like moments where you feel like somebody has entered your soul and written what you have been feeling internally on the inside onto a piece of paper. Like, I don't know whether anybody else has felt like that before. I'm sure you do if you're a reader. That's how I felt when I read the blurb of this collection, and I was just like, well then, I've got to get it. So I waited, and then I got a voucher for my birthday and I bought it, and I did enjoy it. I didn't quite relate to it as much as I thought I would. I still really enjoyed the poems. As you can see, I did tab it quite a lot, and the format of this book I don't 100% get, kind of the layouts of some of the poems. I don't always see the point in it. Again, this is kind of that more modern poetry. I don't know whether he does poetry on Instagram, but this author has quite a few books out, which I haven't personally read. But the only downfall to this is that I don't really understand the layout. Like, there was a layout where it was in a hand. I don't even know if I can find it now. And it was just one of those things where I was just like, okay, what's the, you know, and there doesn't always have to be a purpose for everything. I just didn't quite always understand the purpose of the layouts for some of the poems. But I still really enjoyed it. There were a lot of poems that I could relate to, and I still really enjoyed it, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, or a 4.5, one or the other. And now we are on to my last physical read, And this is another book that just stole my heart, and I have not stopped thinking about it since I read it, and that is Under a Dancing Star by Laura Wood. This is Laura Wood's second young adult novel. A Sky Painted God was her first young adult novel. She has written children's books previously, and this book is even more wonderful, dare I say, to A Sky Painted Gold. This is about a girl named Bee who goes to live with her uncle in Italy for the summer, and it's just so wonderful. That is all you need to know about this book before going into it. It still has absolutely beautiful writing, so lyrical and atmospheric, and as always the characters are amazing. I love Bee. I feel like one of the good, amazing things about Laura and her writing, and her characters especially, is how independent and determined her young protagonists are, how they kind of feel a bit lost at the start, and throughout the book and throughout their journey they grow into the person that they were meant to be, and they kind of figure out what they want to do with their lives, and they know that they don't need somebody else to tell them what to do. They don't need a man. They can do it on their own, and they will get there no matter what, and I absolutely love that about them. And Bee is so quirky. This book especially is absolutely hilarious. Some of the things are like ridiculously laugh out loud, and yeah, it's great. And the romance is just, it's great. It's so angsty and so amazing, and at the end of the book your heart is just like in pieces because you don't know what is going to happen, and it's just so wonderful. I cannot stop. I finished this book a good couple of weeks ago, maybe about 3 weeks ago. I'm still thinking about it, and it is just so wonderful, and I love it to pieces. And I will never stop talking about Laura Wood now. I don't know when her next book is coming out because this one has technically been out for like a month. But I love her to the moon and back. I will always read every single young adult novel she writes, and I'm so glad that I discovered her. It's just amazing and I love it. So yeah, please go and pick up her books. They are absolutely wonderful, and oh, I love this so much. So obviously I had to give it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I would have given it higher if there was, because obviously I would give this more because this book is so wonderful. And the last book that I have to talk to you guys about is one that I also listened to on audiobook, and that is Again But Better by Christine Riccio. This was a book that I wasn't planning on picking up originally. I just wasn't really interested in it when I heard it was coming out. And then I decided to pick it up after I'd heard a little bit more about it, and I heard Christine talk about the book a bit more. And I wanted to physically read it, but I listened to the audiobook, and I really enjoyed the audiobook. I loved the narrator, how she narrated Shane. And this is a book basically about a girl named Shane who goes to study for a semester abroad in London, I believe. And that's kind of all you need to know going into it. And I could relate to Shane so much. Like, Shane was me. Shane kind of reminded me of Miranda, as in Miranda Hart, a little bit. I felt like what she does and kind of her actions and how she thinks, it's just so me. Like, I found that so ridiculously relatable. I heard that there were mixed opinions on this book, obviously like with any, but especially because it's a booktuber book. But I still loved the character. I thought she was so quirky, and it was like me on a page. Like, that is how Shane was to me. And I just loved the story. Obviously the first half was so wonderful, and I loved the travelling in it, and the second half was a lot more hard-hitting, but it was something that I could really relate to, and it's a story that has kind of really changed my way of thinking, especially when it comes to my future and kind of what I want to do with my life, and all those big questions that you are always very scared to think about. So I'm really glad I read this book, or listened to it, should I say, and it's one that I will definitely be rereading in the future. I will definitely have to get myself a hard copy so then I can read it physically at some point. But I definitely recommend the audiobook if you are going to pick it up. I did really enjoy that. So overall I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So those are all the books that I have read recently. I feel like this video is going to be rather long because I have talked about lots and lots of books, but so many books that I have really enjoyed, and I'm so excited that I was finally be able to talk to you guys about them. Let me know in the comments below some books that you have been reading recently, because I would love to know, or if you have read any of these books and your opinions on them so we can discuss them. If you like this video, then please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more bookish videos from me, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and little bell icon so you'll be noted every time I post a new video. As always, I will leave the links to my social media along with the links to my blog and my Goodreads in the description down below for you guys. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!